Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 15 of the Stage Racing Podcast. We're breaking down everything from the Music City this weekend, plus a lot more. A few other things have popped up, so stay tuned. All right, Cody. Fun-filled weekend. A lot of things happening. Allow me to apologize to the audience in advance. Cody was sick on the last episode, I think it was, or the one before. We have not seen each other, but virtually, I think he passed his germs on to me. Appreciate it. I'm not feeling great at all. Hence why the pod is a little late getting out this week. But I'm going to power through it here and try not to bust everyone's eardrums when I have to cough. Hopefully the mute button's working good tonight. So you're feeling better. That's good at least. How are you, buddy?
Oh man, doing good, doing great. Yeah, like you said, on the mend, feeling great. So then back to feeling myself, and had some good personal things going on in the personal life right now. So hopefully things are on the up and up, and just keep on trucking along.
Yeah. And a crazy weekend. And some things started going last week. And honestly, wasn't even planning on starting the podcast with this, much let alone even discussing it. But it started to gain a little traction on my weekly podcast, NASCAR podcast that I listen to. That I'm starting to think might be a little bit more than a thing, might be a little bit more than a talking point, and that is more horsepower coming to these next gen cars. And when I saw the tweet that they talked about it, Holler Talk, I sent it to you immediately. It was like, I'll believe it when I see it. You sent back was like 100% right there with you. Then it gained some traction throughout the weekend. You see it in some guys' interviews. Denny talked about it on Actions Detrimental, which I watched this morning. Junior talked about it. Allgaier talked about it on Junior's podcast. Allgaier's not even in a cup car. He's just talking about where he tests cup cars. It's
hmm
gained a little traction, Cody. What do you think?
No, I've been seeing it kind of throughout the stratosphere on Twitter, the Twitter sphere, ever since it kind of got dropped last week, and it's kind of been taken off. So I mean, I would be super excited. I know like Joey Logano made a comment about it not being, going back to 900 horsepower, but dude, at this point we're clamoring for anything because more horsepower means more tire wear, and that just means better racing. So
Yeah,
I think right now, I mean, if we could get to 750, 720, I think we'd be really, I think it'd be better, and at least it'd be a start.
it would be a start. I think McDowell said it best to temper your expectations with this. Um, I agree. I think 750 kind of seems to be that number that everyone's throwing out there right now. Currently, they run 670 for those who don't know. And it's wild to me that they're only running 670 horsepower in a competitive, the best, most competitive, it's supposed to be top of the line series in stock car racing. So they're floating around 750, which, if I'm not mistaken, is what they were running on the previous gen before they
hmm
switched over to next gen. So I think that will help. I think where it could help the most, where I want to see it help the most, is on short tracks, specifically Martinsville. Will bringing it to, and Allgaier talked about this today, and I thought he made a good point. We'll bring it to 750, quit the shifting at Martinsville. And I think he made a good point. It may not cut it out altogether, but you might shift a little bit on a short run, but when those tires start to wear, when you get over a 40 lap run at Martinsville, which is becoming extremely common these days, you're probably not going to downshift going into the turn. And if you don't know what we're talking about, if you watch NASCAR racing prior to the next gen car, they never shifted at Martinsville outside of a restart. And what we mean is going into the turn, what they do now in these next gen cars is they downshift to catch the grip and keep those RPMs up, and then they can get out the turn and then upshift from there. Never did that before. Usually just put it in gear and went for the most part. And by allowing these guys to downshift, you're not seeing as many mistakes at short tracks as you used to, which is what caused great racing. And we're not talking major mistakes. We don't want anybody just crashing into the wall left and right, but guys shouldn't just be able to overdrive the corner, downshift, pick it up like nothing went wrong. And so that's where I'm hopeful we'll see the most change, is that it's gonna separate the has-beens from the has-nots.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, something to be able to come to Martinsville and, you know, throttle it down and just kind of roll through that center of the corner like we've all love to see, and that's what we always talked about in NASCAR games growing up, and You always hear about the drivers talk about it, rolling through the center of the corner. And, if you couldn't roll through the center of the corner, well, it was a long day for you at Martinsville. And so, for not being able to be able to take away that shifting and, like you said, if you overrun the corner, you're going to pay for it. So I would love to see that. I think, seeing it at other tracks too, like, I mean, how would that work at, North Wilkesboro? How would that
Mm.
work at, even Bristol for that, even for that, just
Yeah,
I'd be really
I don't know
intrigued
if
to see.
shifting would be as big a thing at Bristol, but more horsepower is going to definitely help that tire wear
Correct.
for sure at Bristol, which is
Yeah.
what we need. The best Bristol race we've seen in years is because the tires were falling off majorly.
hmm
Yeah, that's what we need.
So I'm here for it.
Oh, 100%. So we'll see what happens with that. I just sit here and I'm like, okay, it's June. NASCAR hit a little bad luck. Obviously, the product people they're not seeing it through the Mirage anymore. I think that's probably what sparked the conversation. They had a good race in Charlotte, um, but I think they were a little skeptical of what's to come. We'll talk about Nashville here in a second from this past weekend, but Nashville doesn't probably go quite as well as they hoped to keep carrying that momentum. So I think that's what's kind of got this conversation stirring a little bit more. Is they know they got to do something, and so I'll at least give them benefit of the doubt of that. It's like it seems like they're starting to have the conversations of, okay, we got to fix something here. Excuse me, forgot to hit the mute. Sorry. So the other big news that popped off that I'm sure everyone has an opinion is the Atlantic broke that NASCAR itself, NASCAR CEO was looking to fund a possible team in a one-off race in the Cup Series, working with Trackhouse, or was it Spire? Which one? I don't
It
know.
was
One of the
track.
was it? I think it was Trackhouse.
It was
Um,
Trackhouse.
and for a one-off race, and this is interesting. Um, I have my feelings on it, and I think it's just the timing of it couldn't have been worse for NASCAR, for the media members to find out about it when they did. Reason being, this of course pops after the Indy 500, where you had Roger Penske's team. Mind you, Roger owns the Indy Series, runs the Indy Series, and his team gets busted for cheating. So it's a huge talking point just because of that. And then you find out that NASCAR is looking to, not just NASCAR. Was it Phelps or is it one of the Francis? I can't remember which one. Um,
I want to say it
Gosh,
was I think it was one of the Francis, but I'll go look it up as you're talking.
yeah. Anyways, looking to do some possible funding for a team, for a one-off race, and it kind of, yeah, it leaks, essentially, and so there's some mixed feelings on it. While you're looking at Cody, I'll give my opinion on it.
It was Jim France,
It was
and it was
France.
for
Okay,
Spire.
okay, okay. Here's my thing with it. If there wasn't so much going on with NASCAR and teams right now, specifically the lawsuit with 2311, I don't think I'd have that big of a problem with it, honestly. But you've got 2311 in front row basically suing NASCAR to completely change the way the whole sport works. And now all of a sudden, one of the main guys at NASCAR wants to fund a team. Well, what's he looking at possibly doing? Gathering 5 charters here in a few months if the court case goes his way? It's suspicious, and it's not something that NASCAR's used to, and I think that's the other thing. It's just you've never really seen this in NASCAR. And look, all jokes aside, I joke with you all the time about the relationship NASCAR and Rick Hendrick has, and all this, and the conspiracy theories and all that. But put that aside, this is like out there, man. I mean, this is like they're jumping fully into it. Um, Mind you, one of Spire's drivers, Corey LaJoy, even though he's not driving much. Now, I don't think this is who they were going to put in that car, but his podcast is run by NASCAR, if I'm not mistaken.
hmm
And it's just a lot of things that make you go, yeah, a little bit of conflict of interest. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, it feels very icky, to me because, like you said, the timing could not have really been worse for this, with everything going on with Penske. I thought the same thing. Um, so it was with Spire and Hendrick actually. So I didn't say that
Yeah,
while
of
you were
course they
talking,
have
but
the alliance,
the
yeah, but
alliance. So. you
I
know.
won't make fun of you. I
Um,
won't push your buttons on that.
no, I mean it doesn't matter to me, but I mean I'll call a spade a spade. So if but I think it like I said, it just feels really icky to me, and um, I don't like it. It was supposed to be at Sonoma, is where it was supposed to
Okay.
be.
I knew it
So
was a
what
road
happened?
course. I just couldn't
So like
remember if it
you
was.
talk about potentially putting Corey LaJoy in there, but what's to say they don't go out and find some other road course racer and go and they win that race?
Or
Like
go get a former F1 or Indy, yeah, something
yeah.
like that
So
to
you
expand the
know,
sport.
well, and here's the thing too. Do they use that provisional to get in
Mm.
too? They go find a driver, then use the provisional that was made, put a driver in there with a team. I mean, there was loopholes and ways to do that anyway, and maybe I'm overthinking it, but I
No,
mean,
you're not
so
overthinking it.
I think to me it was just I- with the lawsuit too, like you said, it just it just doesn't feel right. It feels very just backhandish, and and also too, it feels kind of like a power move. Like I'm the CEO, I can do what I want. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan, like you said. I'm everybody on this that listens to this pod. I'm more of a traditionalist, and this is really uncharted waters for NASCAR, and
It is,
I just don't like it.
and you want to compare it to something. What if Roger Goodell decided to give funding to a
The
team,
Raiders or something, like in
or
Vegas.
yeah, I mean, or to who shout out to Ben. What if Goodell gave some funding to the Titans? A
Yeah.
team that didn't have that good of a year last year, kind of in a rebuild, and it gives them some money to say, hey, go give yourself a little extra something here.
Hmm.
Because look, could they get a driver to win the race and all that? Maybe, probably not. But that team sure is going to get a whole lot of heck of information out of it
Yeah.
that other
I
teams
mean,
would, and everyone else aligned with them would. All the Chevy cars would get a whole heck of a lot more information that than some of the
mhm.
others, especially if you're bringing someone from outside the sport who maybe could put some fresh eyes on it. At the end of the
Yep.
day, I'm with you. I'm not stressing over. Obviously, it got busted. They know they're not doing it now, but I'm with you. It's icky. It just yeah.
One thing I really enjoyed though this year, of course, back into last year, is how much the NASCAR media guys and girls like how much they're not cutting NASCAR any slack, man. I mean, they are doing their due diligence,
Gloves
and
are
they
off.
are just yeah, and I love it. I mean, I think it's great because I think it makes the sport better. So I'm all here for the media trying to. A lot of times the media can get really icky too, but the NASCAR ones are just doing a great job of kind of holding NASCAR accountable.
Yeah, I agree. I like it. It's a breath of fresh air. It's no more pat your brother on the back type thing. We're not throwing you underhanded softball pitches anymore. We're bringing the heat, and I like it. I do. I do. Well, let's move on to some action actually on the track. I didn't get to watch any of this Friday night as I was traveling back on the Amtrak from going up to DC. Shout out to our guy Jay, Master Sergeant Southern now, I should say. Good little ceremony getting to see him, and happy for our boy. But traveling back from that, the service on the train, the Wi-Fi was a little hit or miss, and so wasn't able to really watch truck race like I wanted to. But Raja Karuth gets a win. Shout out for Raja. He's had a decent year this year. Probably not what he wanted, or has wanted so far. Obviously, he's happy with the win. He's in the playoffs now, but um, he runs for Spire, if I'm not mistaken. He's at Spire Truck, right? And
Yep.
so Raja's big. People have some expectations for Raja, be it fair or not. I don't think he's got as much out of this year, but good for him to get the win, and look decent in the process. Well, like he backed into it by any means, and be interested to see what kind of momentum they can carry for that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought he ran a pretty good race. And, I mean, he had a lot of high hopes last year. He ran pretty good
Mm.
last year, or showed some flashes, and a lot of people expect him to take that next step. So, finally, kind of knocked that win off this year. And, yeah, maybe he starts the summer and starts stringing some things together. But, of course, our man for the pod, Corey Heim, he finished second, if I'm not mistaken. So, um, that man's just
He's still
continuing to knock
just
them
he
down.
is
And I,
122 points separated from second place. It's unbelievable.
yeah.
I mean,
So I think we're gonna. I think on this pod, anybody that wants to listen, Adam and I are gonna continue to sing his praises because the kid's good, and we're gonna continue to talk about him on this pod probably for a long time, as long as the pod continues to go and he continues to climb that ladder because the kid's good.
Yeah, that'd be a kid being Corey Haim, of course. Nothing, not taking anything away from Raja. But yeah, I agree. I'm interested. Hopefully, Raja can carry some momentum. I think if you look at him, he's been in the Truck Series for a few years now. He's in the back of his mind probably thinking he wants to have a good year because he's ready to move up
Hmm.
to Xfinity Series and then see what goes from there. So he needs to carry some momentum if he wants to do that because I don't think he's quite there unless they want to move him. I don't think he's quite there yet. But hey, carry some momentum, see how the year finishes out, and you never really know for sure. So moving on to Xfinity race, I did get to watch some of the Xfinity race on Saturday, and Justin Allgaier gets that dub again. But he's on a tear this year, honestly. Like he's been really good this year. Junior Motorsports in general has been really good this year. Um, so shout out to him. I don't really have a whole lot to say. He just kind of kicked everyone's rear end, really.
Yeah, the old Gator strikes again.
Yeah.
Um, so
Give.
I can
Tell
wear
you what,
my.
man. Tell you what, the old
Tell
Gator.
you what, man. I tell you what, man. The old Gator, man. He's putting it on him, man. John Gruden, for all you people out there, got a little John Gruden, a little taste today, unexpectedly for everybody out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, he's just been putting on shows in Xfinity. I mean, when and I mean, even against some of the Cup guys, he's done really well. And I still stand by what I said earlier, many pods ago. But I think if Junior finds a way to fund a Cup team, I think he's just going to repay Allgaier by being the first like full time driver for him. I know he's got some really young talent, um, but I also think that he's sort of loyal to Allgaier, and unless Allgaier doesn't want it, I mean that's very
And well,
possible.
here's something that was randomly floated on Denny's podcast today. He said something about he heard that Justin might be considered retirement.
Mm,
Um, he
mm,
wasn't 100% sure about his source on that, but something that he thought he had heard floating around.
yeah,
Interesting. I mean, Allgaier's a little older than you would think he is.
mhm.
But yeah, no,
Probably
I'm with
mid
you.
30s.
I don't know when Junior's making that leap. I think he's going to. And they're supposed to run another race this year, if I'm not mistaken. Is it Dega? Are they running the fall Dega race?
I thought that's what they had said. I'll have to go check that out.
Well,
But
that's the second. That's the third to last race, so that's a long ways away. But I know coming out of Daytona, I think Junior had the itch. I'm sure things have
yeah,
settled down a little bit now, but at some point he's going to make that jump for sure. Um, Especially after watching that Earnhardt documentary, which let's bring that back up at the end. Let's try to remember that. I don't have it on the notes, but let's try to remember that because I know we both watched that. But the way Junior's sister works, man, she's got a business mind. It's unbelievable. And so for me to sit here and think that she's not going to push that organization in that direction is hard to fathom. But yeah, Allgaier's had a solid season this year for sure. He's definitely my favorite in the Xfinity series to win another championship and potentially go back to back.
yep, I'm right
I don't know
there
if you
with
got
you.
anything else to add to the Xfinity series or not.
You summed it up good.
All right. Well, let's move it on to stage two here, and let's talk about the Cup race Sunday night. First of all, I like these Sunday night races, man. Even this, start at 7 o'clock with a good, 400-mile race. It only ended up taking 3.5 hours, I think, to finish because a lot of it ran green. It was good, man. It was some good vibes to it. Still got in the bed at a decent time on a Sunday night with work the next day. But yeah, I like that. Um, so I just started by saying I don't think it was the best Nashville race we've ever had. I don't think it's as horrible as some people are making it out to be. I voted yes on the good race poll because I thought there was some good racing to it. It wasn't perfect. There's still a lot of work to be done. Unfortunately, a second lane just never came in, and when a second lane doesn't come in with these cars, it can get drawn out. It can be a snoozer. But there were some times in this race. Remember some fantastic racing. That little 3 or 4 lap spurt with Blaney, Byron, and Hamlin was unbelievable. I mean, all three of them had a lead at one point. I mean, it was just boom, boom, boom. It don't get much better than that, honestly.
Yeah, no, I mean I'm right there with you. I voted yes on the poll too, just for you know
I
knowledge
think
for
it I
everybody.
think it finished around 67% yes.
Yeah, so that's what I looked at earlier today. So yeah, I thought it was a good race. I mean, sure, there was a lot of times where, like you said, it was kind of monotone. It was just kind of like meh throughout. But I think the battle for the lead at that time was just fantastic. And I mean, you had some other good battles throughout once again. And Amazon just like once again, we'll get to that later, but does a great job of making sure they're showing those battles throughout to not make the racing feel so stale.
Hmm.
Um, so um, I mean, Blaney just once he got the lead, sort of just walked the dog. But I think all in all, I thought it was a good race. It was like you said, it wasn't the best Nashville race, but um, I mean, I stayed up and watched it. Thought
Yeah.
I wasn't like upset that I stayed up and watched it.
For sure.
Um, so
I think it was one of those races where some people weren't happy because you had a really good car who didn't qualify well, but he took advantage of the tires not wearing, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. Got his track position, and then he was just out there. I mean, look, the 12 has been one of, if not the fastest car all year. He's just had some horrible luck. Um, we knew at some point he was going to get that win. We felt pretty confident. Although we said if he don't hurry up and get it, that luck, that the light is dimming, but he's good now. Um, but I think you had a really good car in the 12. You had some pretty good cars in Hocevar, Hamlin, Byron, even Reddick at times. And then you had some other cars that were all right. What's crazy to me is, and Prime talked about it some, probably didn't highlight it as much as they should have, but you had the 45 have some things go wrong and battled his way back up there. You had the 23 have some things go wrong, battled his way back up for a top 10 finish. You had Larson almost lose it again, actually get into the wall, get caught up in some crap, almost go a lap down, and then come back and finish in the top 10. Passing was there if your car was good enough. The problem was you never really got to see passing for the lead because the 12 was so good. And it just got so strung out too. I would have loved to have seen one more restart. Those
hmm
restarts we had in stage two, unfortunately, it caused like a lot of cautions in there, but there was some good stuff going on in those restarts. One more, if we could have just had a caution in there somewhere. And look, I'm not against a good running out race. I'm fine with that. Man, if there'd have been one more caution with this particular race where you had one more really good restart, I think that would have changed the view of this in a lot of people's eyes.
yeah, I mean, I'm kind of right there with you. So I think there were a lot of good cars. I mean, ultimately, and yeah, I was surprised that Reddick was able to come back and finish where he did, especially after he got in that accident. Um, so I mean, kudos to that team for doing what they did, and you already brought Bubba Wallace up too. Um, so I mean, I feel bad for Hocevar. Was running good again, and ended up blowing the motor, and just bad luck on his part. But you know, Ryan Blaney, of course. I told Brandon this weekend. Shout out Brandon, but I told him I said, me and you talked about Blaney needing to find that win somewhere, and then I brought up last week or the one prior to Charlotte. I said, Ryan Blaney, of course, when he won at Charlotte that year, he went on to win the championship. I said, look out now because yeah, he didn't win at Charlotte, but he won the darn next week. He won it again,
Yeah.
so he's got that win
It's
off his back,
interesting.
and
It is
so
because, and I think what I'm interested to watch for this season, when you talk about that with Blaney, let's just talk about Penske as a whole these last few years, where they've won the last three championships, and last two for sure.
yeah,
One was Joey's. I don't know. Anyways, they've been that team that's just kind of puttered along in the regular season, and then bam, just hit at the right time. Where this year, they're doing pretty good. Um, they're fast. That's what they haven't had these last few seasons. Excuse me. And then coming in this one is that they haven't been fast, but yet they found speed toward the end. Where now it's like, okay, they found speed. What are they going to have at the end? Is it going to get flipped on them this year? So yeah, we'll be interested. I'm with you though. Hocevar, good to see Hocevar finally put it together and get a finish. That's what he needed. So he finished second. We'll talk about some of the some of Carson's antics here in a second, but yeah, let's talk about tires a little bit. Overall, there still needs to be some work, and I know earlier this year we defended Goodyear, but I think on this particular track they can get a little bit more aggressive. I'm sorry, excuse me. I think it's just cement in general that I just don't. I think they're cautious on it. I really do, and they did bring what was supposed to be a softer left side this weekend, but it still just wasn't enough, man. And then the race went into the night, whereas last year it was during the day.
Mhm.
So it was cooler, so they weren't wearing as much. They need to get a little bit more aggressive here. Goodyear does need to get a little bit more aggressive here. And heck, hey, even some more horsepower probably would have helped this weekend. But yeah, I think they can get a little bit more aggressive on tracks like this, and I'll be interested to see what they pull at Dover. Now, Dover's traditionally run um, during the day, especially these last few years. It seems to be a Monday race with the way Mother Nature goes. But I'll be watching Dover, another cement track, very, well, not completely similar to Nashville, but kind of the same. I'll be interested to see what the tires do when we go to Dover.
Yeah, got more banking at Dover, so we'll
Yeah.
see how that pans out.
Well, let's talk about Mr. Hocevar. We alluded at a second ago. Carson had a good car, obviously finished second, and he didn't back into second. He drove up there and got what was his, but in the process, he might have gone a little too hard and wrecked out old Ricky Stenhouse. And look, man, I know it's easy to make fun of Ricky, but he's actually having an incredible drive this year with the equipment and stuff that he has. You got to tip your hat to him. I think Carson was in the wrong. Junior's defended Carson majorly here recently. Said it reminds him of the way his dad used to drive. I'll
Hmm.
say this. I'll say this. I think what you saw in Nashville was Hocevar being way too aggressive at a time he probably didn't quite need to be that aggressive. But he went for it. He spun Ricky. Here's all I'll say with Hocevar since he keeps doing this. If you're going to keep doing this, it's fine. But when someone retaliates against you and push you into the wall, which Ricky's going to do at some point, 100%, um, or Ricky's going to be waiting by his hauler in them cargo shorts and give him the old Kyle Busch treatment. But when that happens, don't cry about it. And if he's okay with that, if he can live with that when someone does it to him, then I'm good. Whatever. If you're okay with it, if you're okay doing it to someone, they try to do it with you, just don't cry about it, and we can move on. I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah, I went back and I watched the camera angle a couple times on that accident. Um, I I wasn't entirely sold that it was all his fault. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it
he
wasn't
was driving.
horrible.
It wasn't terrible, and I mean, one of the camera angles from Amazon, really looked like he didn't even touch him. Um, it was more of a spotter thing, but I mean, regardless, I mean, we've talked about this a couple times with Carson about how aggressive he is and whether it's the right time or the wrong time, and is it inexperience or is it just him? And I think now we're sort of getting into that atmosphere of I think it's just him, and I
Mm-hmm.
think he's going to be aggressive. He's going to push the limit of these cars. He's going to push the limit of the other drivers. I don't think he really cares what the other guys think. And I mean, he said it now. And ever since he kind of walked back, after that interview at I guess it was Atlanta or Daytona or something. I can't
He
remember
kind of
where it
run his
was.
mouth this weekend too, and he's walked it back
Yeah.
some. But
Oh, did he?
that
Okay.
didn't happen until his owner showed up on a podcast and said he didn't
Right.
like what happened. So you got to
So that's the
wonder if
thing
he
is,
really meant it.
well, you remember when, early in the year when he was like, oh yeah, I'm sorry for Rick Hendrick, we're sorry to all these people. But then like after the TV cameras were off and he started having the interviews with the media, he was like, yeah, I don't care, it isn't a big deal. So that's the guy I told you from that time that I really wanted to see because, I didn't want this flip flop, you know, and so that's the guy we've mostly been getting. And,
Mm-hmm.
um, he's going to get a win eventually, and it may very well come more of like a Dale Earnhardt finish. From
Heck, it wouldn't
those other
surprise me if it came this coming weekend in Michigan. They've had speed.
they had
They've
Spire
had
has had
speed.
speed. Michael
Mhm.
McDowell's been fast. I
They're
mean,
qualifying great.
they
McDowell's
are.
been, yeah.
He's been really good. He's running top 10. I
Carson
mean,
hasn't been qualifying very well, but makes you
no.
wonder what happens if he does qualify well.
Well, and I think too, I wonder if there's that transition from qualified speed to track speed,
Mm.
race speed and all that jazz. But anyway, so I mean, yeah, I mean, Carson's just going to continue to get better. Spire's continuing. I think they finally started to figure something out. So now we're really starting to hit that stretch of the season where you're seeing a lot of these teams that kind of, slow starts or kind of we're wondering, our dark horses at the beginning of the year of like, what's going to happen now all of a sudden they start to creep in. I mean, Ross Chastain had another good race. He didn't, he did not top three, not but I mean, I think he still finished in the top 10 if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, is Trackhouse starting to really figure it out, or is Ross getting more out of that car? Who knows? But I mean, I think now we've got some teams that are really starting to kind of creep in, and hopefully, I say this, but I hope we're starting to get a little bit of this parity back.
Yeah, it's creeping up in there for sure. Um, but yeah, I think we talk about Carson and all that. I think just I'm okay with it. We need someone aggressive like that. He's
Hmm.
got kind of that young Kyle Busch about him a little bit. Just back it up, man. Just keep backing it up, and when it happens to you, take it. Don't cry about it. That's all I'm asking for. You get
Yep.
Hocevar with his aggressiveness and Ross with their aggressiveness, and they keep coming about. I mean, it's good for the sport. Just don't do anything too
Hmm.
stupid, man. Just know when to be. I think the only thing I'm asking of, if you want to drive like that's fine, just know when to do it. Just
Yep.
please don't do it in a really stupid situation. Is
Don't do it
is
in the
is,
middle of
is
stage
all.
one. Okay, don't
Exactly.
do. Yeah, let's. You want to
Exactly.
do it, 15 laps to go, 10 laps to go. You want to be a little aggressive. You want to rattle somebody's cage. Then okay, fine.
Hey, look, don't do it like you did at Nashville last year when you're um, fighting for like 24th, and because you did that, Logano won the championship. So, anyways, I digress.
Oh
Oh
Lord,
man. Well, I
I
think
saw
that
that
pretty much,
highlight earlier this week, and I was just furious.
yeah. I think that about wraps up stage two. Our last talking point, we already hit on it. Just Blaney finally gets that win. So shout out to the 12 group again. Like we said, super fast all year, just haven't been able to finish it. Oh yeah, yeah. See the picture there? Got the burnout, and I like it. I like it. So let's go to the last stage here, and another good talking point now is we know the 32 drivers who are locked into the in-season tournament. The biggest snub, I would say, is Shane Van Gisbergen. God, just so disappointing this year. I mean, I picked him as a dark horse in the Final Four. I look like a complete utter idiot, um, which I probably am, whatever. But um, so we got our 32, but for whatever reason, these next few races NASCAR's using to set the seating, and
I,
it's the seating. It's not what we're gonna get for 1 through 32 and the points for the seating. It's just how you perform over these next few races sets your seat.
Mhm.
What are we doing? Like, we're like a couple blown engines away from like William Byron or Denny or heck even Larson at that point being like an 18 or 19 seed and winning the whole dang thing. NASCAR probably wants that because then they can say, "Oh, look at the upset." But anyone with any kind of matter
NASCAR
in between
knowledge.
these two things right here, your ears, I'm referring to your brain if you don't know what I'm talking about, would understand that is not an upset. Not an upset. Stop. NASCAR does this too much. Stop trying to create drama. Just let it happen. It's going to happen. This is the first in season tournament ever that actually means something, that's got money on the line. These guys care. They're going to care. Set the seating the right way and then just let them go at it, man. We just stop trying to create something doesn't need to be created. I,
I just don't understand why we just didn't use the standings. I just the simplest thing in front of you that you want to sit there and talk about and say nothing's wrong with it. We're fine. We're not going to change anything. But yet you didn't follow the thing that you don't want to change. So I just don't understand. Like just use the standings. It's the easiest,
just use the
simplest
stand.
way. If it
Just
ain't
use it.
broke, don't fix it.
I don't get it. Again, it's just like they're grasping for. They want drama. The fans are going to be watching, man. They're going to be dialed in, and the drivers are going to care. I mean,
It's
this
because
is
they won't. I think, and hear me out. I don't know. I'm probably just entirely off my rocker
they
here.
want their March Madness moment. That's what they
Well,
want.
they do, and I think too. I think looking back at those, that month and a half where they just had bad stretches of races where it was like a lot of that. I don't know if when they fully solidified that this is what when it was gonna like this is the way it was gonna be. I don't know when they solidified that, but I would not be surprised that after those really terrible races, they felt some sort of way of, oh my gosh, if this continues, we need to do something to create
Mm-hmm.
some drama. And
Mm-hmm.
so, of course, then they're thinking, okay, we've got some average races. We get, like you said, a Larson, a Hamlin, a Byron, a Blaney, somebody. Because, of course, here's the other thing Blaney had tons of bad luck. Brad Keselowski has had more bad luck than anybody. But all of a sudden, let's
I
do
mean,
it
their
this way.
seeding wasn't going to be that great in it,
No,
and
but
now
now
they
all of a
could potentially be
sudden,
a 1 or 2 seed. Like, come on.
that's what I'm saying. So I think a lot of these things in season so far up to this point played a huge role in their decision. And I think now that, of course, now Blaney's won. Keselowski finished top five at Charlotte. And he got in some other trouble at Nashville, but had another good car. Um, I don't know, man. I just think NASCAR
Here,
just overthinks a
here's
lot of things.
here's what it is. You and I are both big college basketball fans. I look at it like this, and I'm not trying to rub salt on old wounds for you, but let's think back to when UVA lost to Syracuse to go to the Final Four. Syracuse was what, an 11 seed, right? Was it an upset? Yes, but as a basketball fan, were you surprised at Syracuse, a big name like that at the time, which Syracuse was still kind of Syracuse, at the time? It wasn't that surprising. Or every other year when Tom Izzo and Michigan State make the Final Four, even when they're like a 10 seed or, something random like that, are you that surprised? No. Now you also
Yeah.
know they're probably going to get the crap beat out of them when they play their Final Four. You don't think they're going to win the whole thing, but you're not that surprised.
Yep.
So I use that to say this. What if we go into this and you've got Larson as a 18 seed, Denny as a 12, Byron as a 24, we'll just use his number for it, as a 24 seed. Those are the top three drivers we've had all year, right? Most consistent. C-Bell, Christopher Bell goes into it as a, I don't know.
14, yeah,
He's had some
14 seed.
horrible luck here recently, although he
Mm-hmm.
rebounded good this past week, but he goes into it as a teen seed. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And those four guys end up in the Final Four. Now,
Mm-hmm.
math wise, that probably isn't how it would quite work out. I have to see a bracket in front of me, but let's just say, and NASCAR's going to turn around and preach, oh, we've got madness in our bracket. Look at these high seeds or low seeds. Look at all these low seeds who made it to the Final Four. Blah blah blah. Drama, drama, drama. Well, everyone's gonna look at it and be like, well, aren't these the top four in the standings anyways? Why is this such a big deal, man? Like, I don't get it. It just,
Yeah.
again, you're reaching for something that you just need to naturally let it play out. Just let it play out, man. Because here's the thing. Look at it as if they took the season standings and you've got a Hocevar. Let's just talk about Hocevar, who is carrying some momentum right now, is down the totem pole on the seeding, and then all of a sudden he were to go and make the Final Four. Dude, you've got a storyline right there. You've got a storyline. Just whatever. We could talk about this all night. I'm good. My biggest thing is with how this is shaping up to probably go over these next 3 years. Now it could actually end up falling in line with most of what we got because these drivers are the best of the best for a reason. But my biggest thing is what they're going to preach as upsets will probably not be upsets, and that takes away from the glory of the upset.
The one good thing is the fans. Most of the fans nowadays are smart enough. Shout out to Michael Waltrip for calling us stupid a couple weeks ago. But most of the fans are smart enough to know, this really isn't an upset, especially if it is the likes of Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, William Byron.
hmm Look, I mean, even a casual fan is going to see the name Kyle Larson to say Kyle Larson beat someone that's an upset. Nah, man, come on, come on, not gonna
Mm-hmm.
happen. Not gonna happen.
Yep.
Whatever. Um, Prime continues to impress. I mean, just gosh, it's so good what they do. Look, I didn't stay and watch the post show or the post race show, but I'll tell you what I did Monday while I was working. Popped that bad boy on Prime, fast forwarded to it, and went back and watched it. And man, it was
My man.
so good. It was so good. I just say, Corey LaJoy, you still got to work on your craft a little bit, man. I ain't trying to throw you under the bus or anything, but you still got to work on your craft a little bit, buddy. Yeah, I feel like at times he's reaching to grab a moment that's not there as well, but whatever. As we talk about Prime, I said we'll bring it up, so let's talk about it now. The four-part Dale Earnhardt documentary on Amazon Prime. Look, if you haven't watched that, I don't care if you like NASCAR or not. If you made it this point in our pod, you probably do like NASCAR. But if you haven't watched it, oh my gosh, go watch it. That thing was incredible. I mean, unbelievable. And look, I've watched everything there is to watch around Earnhardt, around the tragic events, around his wreck and his death and all that. But this was raw. This was emotions from his children, emotions from his closest friends. I mean, gosh, dude, you know who I felt like the best interviews were on there was Johnny Morris with Bass Pro Show. Like those were some like he was spitting things that as a
I,
father, I know you were like, oh man, that cuts. Like I can relate. Like, dude, it was good.
yeah. Everything about it was just tremendous. I mean, it was so bad. It was one of those things where, when episode 4 ended, I was like, it's over. Like, I
I
want
want
more,
more.
and yeah, I mean, just the interviews, like, when episode 3 ended and getting into 4. and you knew what was going to happen in 4. It was a real tough watch.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing, and I'm gonna be honest, seeing the camera angle of the camera on the actual hood and then the hood hitting the
Mm-hmm.
wall, I had never seen that one before,
You
to
hadn't?
my memory.
Mm.
And when I'm sitting there watching that view and I know what's about to happen, I'm like, this is really gut wrenching. And
Yeah.
um, to see Kelly's interview and to know that she never got those moments with her dad to really sort of reconcile their differences, that was heartbreaking.
Darrell
As a
Waltrip,
parent.
no idea that he went in the room with the body,
And yeah,
and
kissed him on the forehead.
never knew
And
that. He never knew
yeah,
that up until then.
yeah,
Unreal.
yeah. Which, mind you, like it's funny. Speaking of Daryl Waltrip, like I said, we could probably talk about this. We should have done a pod, like 30-minute pod
Mm.
dedicated to this, honestly. But uh, hearing Daryl in one, I think it was in the same episode. Maybe it was the third episode and then the fourth episode. But he talked about, he was like, a lot of people think Dale Earnhardt's one of the best drivers ever, but he's not. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wait, what? And then the next episode, you hear him say, yeah, I walked in there and kissed Dale on the forehead, and I'm like, wait a minute. Like, did you like the guy? Did you not like the guy? Like, I know you guys
I
had
mean,
a huge rivalry, but
I
like,
think they had a good relationship. Honestly, I
I
do
think so
think they had a
too.
yeah.
Well, you remember, I think if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Daryl's wife used to write like a little scripture thing on the index card. I know she gave it to Junior for a long time, but I'm pretty
Mm.
sure she did it for Dale Senior too. Um, if
I'm
I'm
not
not
sure.
mistaken.
I'm not sure. You're
I'd
probably
have to
right
go.
though.
I'd have to go look that back
But
up.
you know,
But
like racing's one of those weird things, one of those weird sports where, and I look at it like golf, right? Like I think golf is probably the closest thing you can relate to it, where you're competing like crap against someone. But when you're sitting around the garage or you're sitting around the clubhouse, man,
mhm,
there's some of your best buddies ever. But when you're out there on the track or on the course, you're trying to beat the crap out of them. And you're trying to let them know you're beating the crap out of them. You'll do whatever it takes. But when it's all said and done, we'll sit down and drink a beer together, have a meal, and we love each other
yeah,
for it. I think that's kind of where their relationship was. I don't think it was always like that, though. I think it was
right.
once Daryl retired and got, I think that's where their relationship evolved to at that point.
Yeah, I do wish, one thing I do wish is I wish they would have touched a little more on the 2000 season,
Mm,
and like, and I know they made the 99 season a lot about Junior because that was his rookie season, and of course won the All-Star race, won at Texas, won a couple other places, and I mean really was just like he said, had a rocket strap to his back, and um yeah, I wish they would have played a little bit more of that. Like they didn't show any clips of Dale's last win, um, that I remember. So I wish they would have shown a little bit of that. He had some good runs in 2000, so it wasn't like, you know, um, I know as a biased person, I wish they would have been a little bit more on him and Jeff Gordon, but of course there's that whole documentary on him and Jeff
mm,
anyway.
mm.
So I mean but but yeah, I think I came away from that documentary to really wishing what happened wouldn't have happened because DEI would probably be the
It'd be
premier
interesting. It would
the
be
premier
interesting to
team
see
in
where they would be.
NASCAR.
It would be
I mean,
very. It's one of those what ifs for sure, 100%.
that garage Mahal that Daryl called it, and he didn't like Daryl calling it that. I mean, dude, at the time when you see that built and when it was built, that thing was top of the line. Like it was nobody else had anything like that,
Hmm.
and you know just the fact that you can get Michael Waltrip to win a Daytona 500, and you're 0 for 462,
Yeah,
and Michael Waltrip goes out. Well, I think it was his first season with DEI and won the Daytona
yeah,
500.
yeah.
I mean, and Dale Jr. Ran second, and he ran third, was going to run third, and then of course they go on to win the Pepsi 400. I mean, I just think you know, then Junior showed the promise in '99. You know, the the sky was the limit for that team
Yeah.
and that organization. But thanks to Teresa Earnhardt, we'll never know.
Well, I know. It just is such a good documentary, man. More than anything, there were a few things I texted our friend group, and I said this years ago. Just Junior couldn't do an interview, and you see old clips of him in this. His interviews were terrible. He just was not a good communicator. And then just here recently, man. And I know you said he had the little speech coach at Hendricks and all that, but his ability now to tell stories, and probably just because he's doing a lot more, he's in the booth, he's on a podcast. It's unbelievable. I mean, he's one of the best um, people to tell a story. I think of people in the racing field, and I know this next person doesn't do it as much, but I think of people who can tell really good stories. I consider Marty Smith probably the best. I know Marty doesn't do NASCAR as much anymore, where ESPN doesn't cover it and all that, but man, Marty can tell a story. But Junior's right there with him. Like honestly, he's starting to get to that point.
Uh,
It's unbelievable. That
Another,
was
I don't mean to cut you off. Another one is it Ryan McGee?
mm, hmm
Yeah, I
that's
mean, I
with Marty. Yeah, they're on the
yeah,
podcast
yeah,
together.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Like, dude, he tell a heck of a story too.
yeah.
So,
So I think that was a big part in the documentary that was interesting to me. It was just watching Junior just go through it. And he was just so raw, man. The part where he talks about how they went to Daytona early, just him and his buddies, before he won the Pepsi,
oh,
400, how just they were going to their party, and he just drove in the track. Just wanted to see if it was open, drove in there, and then it just stops. And he talks about he just walked away from his friends and just went over to the turn and just stood there and took it. Could you imagine being one of his friends in that moment? Like, I'm sure they just sat there and nobody said a word. And it was just one of those moments where, as a friend, you're like, he just needs it. Just leave him alone. No one's going to say anything. They probably didn't talk about it the rest of the night. Probably have never talked about that as friends, honestly. Closest they probably got was on the documentary. Man, God, it was like, it's one of those moments you look at and you're like, jeez, this is raw, man. This is real. And I think that's what made it so great. So, anyways, hey, if you ain't checked it out, you're really missing out. Go check that documentary out. Amazon, if you want to send me some residuals, send us some residuals for our small audience here, helping your streams go up. We'll take our 10 cent for sure on that.
reinvested
Any,
into the podcast.
that's right. Next week we head to Michigan. I say next week here in just a few days. Really, we're headed to Michigan. Um, Man, Michigan's a very underrated track. One of now the only 2 mile track on the circuit. Rest in peace, Auto Club. Um, I love Michigan, man. Very underrated. God, and we both sent the same clip to each other on two different social media platforms, but um,
Yeah,
just 2018, man. Back when they actually still had horsepower, they were carrying 220 miles an hour into turn one. And so the track has some speed. You won't see this much. I thought Brad Keselowski's had the best retweet of that tweet that I've seen. And it was, I don't know if it was X-Men or something like that. And it was like insurance companies these days. And it was just hitting like a denied button or something like that. No way we'll ever get to do that again. Insurance is like, no, not going that speed. So I thought that was pretty good. But yeah, Michigan carries a lot of speed. Can look boring if you're not watching it right. But to me, I think Michigan might be the closest thing that NASCAR has to similar racing in the Indy 500 for IndyCar is that it seems stretched out, but the way that the cars can draft on each other and make the moves, get the runs they do down the straightaways and stuff is why I've always liked Michigan. Plus, you should have a couple of different lane choices this weekend. So um, I'll ask for your thoughts on Michigan, who you like. As far as who I like, Denny Hamlin's been solid at Michigan. Look, I know I'm a DH fan, but the statistics speak for themselves. Toyota seems to be turning a corner here. We'll see with practice. Toyota's always seems to run well at Michigan. It's like they want to go up there and spoil the party for all the Ford and Chevy execs that show up to that racetrack. So, yeah, and the Toyotas, until you prove me wrong, as good as Penske's been this year, look for the 12 and the 22 to be back up there. Even the 2, and then 21's been off here recently. I wouldn't be surprised if he rebounded. But as far as anything else goes, it's hard to give too many predictions. This is one of the ones I need to see some practice. I need to see some qualifying.
yeah.
So,
No,
your
I'm
thoughts
right
on
there.
Michigan, Cody?
Yeah, I'm right there with Denny Hamlin. I mean, it's just kind of hard to go against that. Um, I think this would be a good opportunity if somehow 2311 can show some speed. I think it'd be a really good opportunity for Bubba and Tyler Reddick too. Um, I was definitely interested in the Fords. I do think some of the Fords are really going to try to show out. Of course, it being Michigan and everything, like you already said. So I was kind of already expecting Ryan Blaney to be up there. Another dark horse this week is, like I said, haven't shown a lot of speed, but Chris Buescher, he's been qualifying really well. as of late, just hasn't been able to put a good run together. So I think, if he can qualify well again and manage to stay up front and not get put back in the pack, I think I could see him being a dark horse to win this race.
Yeah, and let's talk about his owner for a second. Oh, Brad Keselowski. Brad usually runs pretty good at Michigan.
Hmm.
And so that team's been doing better as of late. So we'll see. He's one to kind of keep an eye on this weekend. I'm not saying he's going to go out there and run well enough for me to want to put him in my fantasy lineup or anything, but he's one to watch to see how he does. Is can Brad find something at a track that he's had some success with over the years? That's what I'll be watching for. Well, all right, man. We're 50 minutes. It's late. I'm ready for bed. Your reaction just there, I think you're ready as well. So, hey, look, appreciate everybody sticking with us again. Apologize for getting out on a Thursday this week. I texted Cody last week and was like, hey, man, let's shoot for Mondays. And then I woke up Monday feeling like crap. Text him Monday like, nope, not happening, buddy. Text him on Tuesday, definitely not happening, buddy. And then today I was like, still feel bad, but we're gonna power through. So appreciate it, buddy, and appreciate everybody tuning in. And we'll catch you next week.